So I was hanging out in Atlanta last December. A group of friends of mine, we go out, a boys' trip. And so we go, we hanging out, and we go to this restaurant, and the food is amazing. And we sit down and we eat. And after we kind of sitting around talking, and one of the guys said, "Hey, let's go for a walk." And because we're trying to be healthy, trying to keep each other accountable, we decided that we were going to go. And so up we moved. We walked down Peachtree and around the city and so forth. And we walked probably for about a half an hour. And granted, we weren't doing, any kind of brisk kind of pacing, but we were walking and we were walking and we were walking and talking. And so we weren't like, smelling the roses and stuff. And when we finished, I think it was about half an hour, we started, hey, let's head back. And so we walked and we walked back. And for the entire time, we had walked for about an hour. And one of the guys said, "Hey, I wonder how many calories we burned." And so he looks down and he looks on his watch, and guess what? That's right. We had burned 165 calories. 165 calories. And I said, this can't be right. And so I've been tracking walking when I go out with my wife in the morning. Even while we were there, I got on the treadmill and I tracked. And the question that we want to ask tonight is, does exercise really compensate or fix the things that we do in the kitchen? Right? Does it compensate for a poor diet? And that's our question for tonight. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. I am talking to adults with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, who want to put their diabetes in remission, who want to get off of diabetes medications, who want to reverse their diabetes. That's what we're working on here on the channel. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the chat because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap and some music, and just let you know that we are happy that you are here in this space. Also, if you have questions as we go throughout the night, make sure you put those in the comment, put those in the chat, because we'd love to get to them and answer them for you as we get further into the evening. And as you know how we do, we're going to be taking a look at my meters, taking a look at my monitors. I've got my meters over here that we're going to look at, my Keto Mojo and my Contour. And then, of course, right below, you see there, that is my Dexcom. That is the Clarity app or Clarity report that we'll take a look at here in just a little while. And I'm so excited to see, we do have some folks that are out there. I see Teresa. She's saying, "Hi, doctor," and everyone. Glad that you're here, Teresa. And let me see. It looks like if I'm a little delayed to you, Teresa, go ahead and put yes in the comment, because I think someone is saying that I'm a little delayed. Say howdy, doc. And Jennifer is here as well. Hey, Jennifer, how are you? They are saying howdy, howdy, howdy. Glad that you guys are able to join us tonight as we get into the show. So last week was my anniversary. Coming into this week, at the beginning of the week was my son's birthday. End of the week was our anniversary. And so we ate a little differently than we normally do. But we're going to take a look at blood sugars as we get through the rest of this evening. In fact, let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's take a look at one of those blood sugars right now. If you happen to be on Instagram right now, it looks like we're having an issue with Instagram. I'm not sure what's going on, but if you know someone who's out there looking for us on Instagram, go ahead and have them hop over here on YouTube, Facebook. We're on X, we're on LinkedIn, and of course here on YouTube. I'm not sure what's going on right now with the Instagram. It should be. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, but we're here, and let's take a look at blood sugars. This is my Libre, Freestyle Libre. This is Libre 3, and you'll see what that is right now. This is what it's saying right now, and my Dexcom. Let's see. Let's get rid of that for a minute. I'm going to come back to that. And my Dexcom right now is saying 96. So Libre is saying 76, Dexcom is saying 96, and they are 20 points away from each other. Let's hop over and let's take a look and see what these guys are saying. So this is my Contour, and this is my Keto Mojo. Let's go ahead and let's grab a Contour, and I always want to do that for you guys here at the beginning, so we can see. And by the way, let's see, at 1 o'clock tomorrow morning will be 48 hours. So let's see, 7 minus 3 minus 4, 48. So that's 44 hours or so, if I did that math right. Not 44, but 48 minus 7. 48 minus 4. Yeah, 44 hours is where I am at this moment. So this is my Contour, and I've got my Keto Mojo test strip. If you are currently in a fast, by the way, go ahead and drop that. Say yes. Tell us how many hours you're in right now. And let's grab a Lancet from our little trusty Lancet tray. So I've got test strips. I've got Lancets, different types. I like the spring-loaded ones because they are much simpler to use. So basically, this purple top, you screw it, and that basically breaks that off. And then there's a spring here. When you press the spring, it gives you a poke. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm gonna bring it up to the mic so you can hear it. Hopefully you heard that. And let's see if that gave me, yep, a good enough poke to get a drop of blood here. And another drop for the Contour. Okay, so 82 is what the Keto Mojo says. And then the Contour says 83. So those pretty close to each other. And then 76 was the lowest from the Libre. And then 96 was what the Dexcom, or 98 now, what the Dexcom says. So let's go ahead and get this strip out. And let's go ahead and put a strip in for the ketones. And go ahead and get that started. And as I usually do, I'm not going to show you that, right? So I'm going to come over here. I know I'm so bad about that. Yep. Okay. All right. So that's what we, and if you think you know what my ketones are going to be, go ahead and drop those in, and we'll come back to that here in just a little while. Well, so the question is, well, let me, before I do that, I did see, Jennifer said she had to crawl through all the Storm Chaser lives to find this one. The Chaser is about an hour west of us, meaning storms. Yeah. So lots of weather out there. So please be safe, everyone. Jennifer, glad that you are safe, that you made it in. And that you are joining us. Yeah, so make sure you do that. We've got some friends who are in the Caribbean, friends who are actually supposed to be traveling later this week. So we'll keep everyone in mind as they go through all of those this time of the year. All right, so back to our conversation, okay? And we've been talking here. Last week we started the initial conversation talking about calories. And calories, if you recall, calorie is a measure of energy. And the way that is calculated is using what's called a calorimeter. So basically they take a piece of food, they put it in the calorimeter, they burn it, and then see how much energy, how much heat is given off by that piece of food, and that determines the calorie for the food. So calories, right? So that's how calories are formed. And so all foods, everything that we eat, has a calorie that's associated with it. So whether you're eating broccoli or a cookie, whether you're eating collard greens or cornbread, whether you're eating a piece of chicken, a piece of fish, all of it has a calorie associated with it. And calories are given to different types of food. So, for example, the number of calories that are in fat, foods that are fat, are 9 grams or 9 calories per gram. In protein and carbohydrate, so those are the three. So protein, carbohydrate, and fat, those are the three macronutrients. And so for protein and carbs, it is 4 calories per gram of carb. Okay, so 4, and then 9. So fat actually has the ability to store the most calories, which is why the body so efficiently stores it, right? we know that. What's that statement they used to say? A minute on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, right? So the fat is able to store calories very efficiently. And so there has been this conversation that happens all the time between fat and carbohydrates. People are saying, okay, which one is better? Which one is better for blood sugars? Remember, our thrust, our plan is how do we put diabetes in remission? How do we reverse diabetes? And associated with this, the benefit of that is we get the benefit of all of those other metabolic diseases that we see improvement in. Okay, so that's one conversation. Is it fat, or is it carbs? Right. So there are always those two things. And then the other conversation that comes up is calories, because we're always told if we improve our calorie intake, if we decrease the number of calories, then we get better blood sugars, we get better weight. That will improve our cholesterol, our high blood pressure, our non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and on and on and on and on. And this idea of calorie in versus calorie out. So if I go out and I eat a certain number of calories and I exercise a certain number of calories, the equation says that the calories that I take in minus the calories that I burn should be what my weight should be. Or that's how much energy is left in the body. And you've probably heard that a lot, right? Because that's what the dogma has been. As we learned last week, though, all calories are not the same. So 200 calories from chicken breast versus 200 calories from donuts. The donut will spike blood sugar. Blood sugar will rise. When the blood sugar goes up, insulin comes out, and insulin has a bunch of things that it does. It stimulates the appetite. It stores that sugar or that energy somewhere. We put on weight, and on and on and on. So all calories are not the same. But the other question that people ask is, if I eat something and I go to the gym, am I able to compensate for what happened when I ate? And so we're going to kind of talk our way through that here as we get into the rest of this discussion. Last week, we started talking about calories, and the question was, are calories the key for blood sugar and for weight? And so we're going to get in and we're going to talk about some of that here tonight as we get into that discussion further. And so donuts, cupcakes, hamburger, fries, milkshake. Now, those are what people consider as bad calories, right? So bad carbs. But broccoli, celery, lettuce, tomatoes, a salad, right? People consider those as good calories. Those are not bad, right? So they're good carbs, and so they do lots of different things for us. Well, let's talk a little bit about the chase that's always happening. So people will eat and then they'll go run. They'll eat, they go exercise. They'll eat, they'll cut back on carbs. They'll count carbs. I've got folks who have these apps, and we'll actually use one of the apps here tonight as we go through this, because it'll give us some examples of some foods. But it seems like we're always chasing that back, right? So we're eating and then, okay, let me go do this. So we're going to look at some numbers here. So when we talk about blood sugar, the first thing that is important as we're thinking about food is the glycemic index. And that is the rapidity, the quickness with which blood sugars go up. Because that tells us, as we talked about before, when we talk about blood sugars, it is not just the number of carbs that you take in. For example, I gave the example just a little while ago, donuts versus chicken breast. Calories, right? Or donuts versus collard greens, or donut versus lettuce, or donuts versus something else. And when we're trying to gauge what happens to blood sugar as a result of that food, it is the amount of carbohydrates that are in it, yes, and also the glycemic index. How quickly does it raise my blood sugar? And so glycemic index, once again, is a marker of how quickly blood sugars will go up given a set of carbohydrates. And we'll break those up into low, medium, and high. Low, medium, and high. So low glycemic index foods are 55 or less. So there are charts and tables you can go on, and you kind of scroll through, and you'll find, for example, silly example, but it is, hey, I like this. So it's, oatmeal raisin cookie. Or it is, cherries or grapes or whatever the food is that you're looking at. You go to the table, you find the glycemic index, and it'll tell you this is a low. Well, it won't tell you low. It'll tell you a number. So 55 or lower is considered low glycemic index. And those foods will cause blood sugars to go up, but the rise is slow and gradual. So most fruits, vegetables, or legumes will fall into this category. We talked about berries, right? Berries having a lot of fiber in it, right, as a part of that food, so we get a slower rise in blood sugar. Medium glycemic index, 56 to 69. And here we get moderate rise. This is things like sweet corn, whole wheat products. It will rise faster than the low glycemic index, but not as fast as we're going to see here in a minute with the high glycemic index foods. And these are foods that have glycemic index of 70 or above. They cause a rapid spike in blood sugar. These are typically things like sugary snacks or white bread. Right? So glycemic is when we're talking about food, one of the things we want to consider is the number of carbs, the carbs that are in them, and when we talk about carbs, one of the most important things is how quickly it will raise the blood sugar, because that rapidity is what dictates how much insulin and how quickly insulin comes. Because once insulin comes, then we're off to the races, right? Because insulin will do all the things that we've talked about. So here's an interesting thought. So 1 teaspoon of sugar, and if I were to take all the sugar right now that's in your blood and I dry it out, I would get about 1 teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of sugar is about 4 grams of carbohydrates. 4 grams of carbohydrates. 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of carbohydrates. If I look at food, for example, 1 can of your favorite drink, one of the sugary ones, not the diet or the low carb or zero sugar, right? So regular one has 39 grams of carbohydrates. So let's look at this label, right? You'll see there 140 calories, 39 grams of carbohydrates. So if 1 teaspoon is 4 grams, if we divide that 39 into, or 4 goes into 39, 9.75, I believe, times. So within a can of your favorite drink, there are 9.7 times the sugar than is in your blood right now. And so I want you to take a look at the calories, though, that accompany this beverage. So there are 140 calories that go with it. So if we simply are looking at calories, we look at that and we say, oh, those calories, they're not that bad because it's only 140 calories within this can. But if now we take a look at the carbohydrates, we'll see that we get a big spike in carbohydrates or a big spike in blood sugar because we have one of those sugary things that we're drinking with lots of refined sugar in it. So once we take that in, the blood sugar will spike up, insulin has to come out, and once again, we know that insulin is the thing that causes us the issues that we are trying to fix. Okay? So an example of the fact that carb is not a carb is not a carb. So remember, 140 grams of carbohydrates in this can that has 9.75 teaspoons of sugar within the can. And we say right now, for a person who has a normal blood sugar, right, so that's the blood sugar, say maybe going up to about 99, then your blood sugar, the total number of sugar, if we were to take that and convert it into teaspoons, you would have 1 teaspoon of sugar in your blood. Okay? All right. So let's move on. So how do we estimate blood sugar? How do we estimate blood sugar based on food? And before we do the calculation, let me say that it is dependent on you. It is dependent on how your body processes. It's dependent on how insulin resistant you are, dependent on whether you've just coming out of a fast, depending on what you just ate a little while ago, right? Whether you are stressed and sleepy and so forth. So there's lots of things that come into this, but this is an estimate, a general guideline on how to estimate what blood sugars will be based on the food that you are about to eat. And so what you want to do is we'll take the food and we figure out how many grams of carbs are in the food. For example, in this can of soda that we just saw, so 39 grams of carbs. And you would subtract from the 39 any fiber that's in it. In this case, there was not any fiber. And that gives you the absorbable or digestible sugar that's in that food. So for example, let's see. Let's take a look at. I'm trying to find a good one here. Okay, let's see if this one will work for us. So on the screen, you'll see this is my Yuka app. And I'm looking at, this is a can of Boston, of Bush. I keep saying Boston because, sorry, I'm from New York and so Boston. Let's see, it doesn't give me a total number of carbohydrates for this one. So I think I'll have to do it different. But let's assume that you're eating an apple, and an apple has 15 grams of carbs, right? So 15 grams of carbs in the apple. But in the apple, there is 5 grams. There are 5 grams of 5 grams of fiber in it. It's probably not that much, but that's to make the calculation work. So 15 minus 5 gives us 10. That tells us how much of the carbohydrate that's in the food is going to be digested. And then for every gram of carb, then my blood sugar will probably rise between 3 to 5, right? Between 3 to 5 milligrams per deciliter. So if we take that on the high end, let's say it goes maximum of 5. So now I've got 10. So 15 minus 5 is 10. 10 times 5 is 50. So whatever your blood sugar started at, if you eat that apple that we just described, then your blood sugar will rise by 50 points. So it goes from 100 to 150. Does that make sense? Let's do another one. Let's take some rice. So you had a bowl of rice, a plate of rice, and let's say there are 20 grams of carbs in the rice. And there are, 3 grams of fiber. So 20 grams of rice, or 20 grams of carbs. 3 of those are fiber. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna put my calculator on here so we can all go through this together. There you go. So we said 20 grams of carbs minus 3 grams of fiber. That gives us 17. And let's assume, once again, then just to make the math work, because we can do either 3 or 5. Let's assume that it's 5. It goes up to 5. We said we can go from 3 to 5. And let's say 5. So we multiply that by 5, and that gives us 85. So if your blood sugar started out at 100, and you ate that rice that we talked about with 20 grams of carbs, has 3 grams of fiber, then your blood sugar will go from 100 to 185. All right, so that gives you an idea of how to make those estimates. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Awesome. All right. All right, so let's go back over here. And so that tells us how to estimate blood sugar. Well, so let's talk about now. So we've got this food that we're eating. Let's talk about how many calories we burn based on the exercise or the things that we do. Right? As I mentioned, when I went walking with my friend, we walked for about an hour and we burned about 160 calories. Right? If you get on your treadmill or your elliptical and you walk for a certain amount of time, you can get in there and you can see what how many calories you're burning based on what you're seeing. And I'm trying to based on the exercise that you're doing. So if we go back and we take a look at this, we say if we walk for 3.5 miles per hour, and we walk for an hour, that's 290 calories that we burn. So walking 3.5 miles per hour for 1 hour, so that's 3.5 miles, we will burn 90 calories. If you run 6 miles an hour for the 1 hour, then you'll burn 744 calories. And once again, these are estimates, and you can go and based on the type of device that you have and your pace and all those things, you can go and look this up and you can calculate for yourself. But this is just an estimate of those particular types of things that people do, where their blood sugars or where their calories are that they're burning. If we go cycling, 12 to 14 miles per hour, you'll burn almost 600 calories at 596. If you go swimming, moderate swimming, 446. If you do strength training for an hour, 446. If you do yoga, 290. So that's just kind of like walking. If you go dancing, 372. And if you do aerobics, so high impact aerobics, then you will burn about 520 calories. And so remember, our question is, can exercising offset the things that we do in the kitchen or the food that we eat? Okay, that's the question that we're asking. And I want to pull up for you. So this is one of my walks recently. And I was so excited. I was going out and this was kind of a slow one for us. And so I walked about 1.7 miles. It took 49 minutes. And I burned 235 calories. All right, so this was a brisk walk, right? And so we walked around our neighborhood, and there's some elevations. You go up and down, right? So as you're exercising, the intensity, the changes in terrain. That's why on your treadmill sometimes they'll have you can do the incline. All of those things will have an impact on how many calories that you're burning based on the activity that you're doing. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to go back. Let's see if I can find one where I did. Let's see. Okay, here's one. And this was back. So whatever date was that was. So I walked for 3.25 miles. It took me an hour and 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and I burned 388 calories. All right, 7,100 steps. So calories. Okay. Remember the question that we're asking: can what I do in the gym offset what I do in the kitchen? That's where we're heading. All right. So these are the estimated calories that we will burn based on the exercise. Well, let's take it even a step further. Let's take a look at some foods. And here are some of probably my favorite ones. Why they are on there? Hey, just cuz. And we'll take a look at some other things here in a minute. So oatmeal raisin cookies. Love them. Love them. Love oatmeal raisin cookies. So one oatmeal raisin cookie, not a huge big one, not like when you go to the cookie store and you get that one that's like big as your head. Not that one. I'm talking just a regular oatmeal raisin cookie has 150 calories. 150 calories. So if I have 150 calories and I ate a cookie, an oatmeal raisin cookie, let's go back to our table. In order to burn that cookie, I would have to walk for about a half an hour, because that would give us right about 150, because if we round that up to 300, because it's 298, I would walk for for 30 minutes, and I could burn one cookie. Or I can go running for 15 minutes, and that would burn one cookie. Or I can go cycling and so forth. So see what we're doing? Right? Based on the number of calories that are in the food, we're now determining what do I have to do in order to burn the calories that are in that food. Chocolate chip cookie, 200 calories. And so for that one, I'd have to walk. Let's see, which one? What could I do? Let's do some strength training. Yeah, let's do some strength training. And so we would do a half an hour, maybe a little less than a half an hour of strength training, vigorous exercise, vigorous strength training in order to be able to burn off that cookie. And then we can go on and on. So donuts, for example, and then a medium banana, okay? But what I'd like to do is I would like to hop over and let us take a look at, and if you're out there, I want you guys, I have a couple of things. Just grab a drop-in, which fast food place you would like us to look at. I've got a couple that I've pulled up, and we'll start out the most common ones, right? So let's start out, and we'll take a look at, let's take a look at McDonald's. I think that's a good one to look at. And so let's see if we hop over here. Maybe this one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's McDonald's. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab at random some things, right? So let's say we want to do some fries, right? World famous fries at McDonald's. And we're going to take a look at the nutritional information. And based on nutrition, the nutrition summary, it says, okay, and so that one didn't quite work. Let's see, let's say a medium fry. So one medium fry is 320 calories. Medium fry at McDonald's, 320 calories. And we said that when we walk, right, if we walk for an hour, we would burn 290 calories. So if we're looking at the calories here at McDonald's, then that's almost, it's not quite an hour, right? 298, but big calories. If I go back, and I think there's a way to kind of look at the entire meal. Let's see. Let's pick. Oh, here is it. Meal deals, and we'll just pick a random one. Oh, did I hit the? Yeah. Let's say meal deals. See if that will come up. For some reason, that's not working. Okay. Well, let's look at a hamburger. Let's look at a burger. Okay. Let's look at the Whopper. I know a lot of people look at the Quarter Pounder, but let's look at the Whopper. If I look at the Whopper, and what I want to do is a nutritional calculator. Right. So for a Whopper, double cheese Whopper, that's 740 calories. 740 calories. So let's back up and let's go back to our list of how much do we burn. So 740 calories. Okay, so if I ran for 1 hour, 6 miles per hour, I would burn 744 calories. So let's assume that that's the one that we're going to do. So we're going to run for an hour. If we don't run for an hour, if we walk, then we've got to walk for 2 hours to burn the calories that come from the Whopper. You guys see that? Right? So for 2 hours. And so the question, and I'm hoping that you're getting a sense, right, that we're coming down on one of these sides, right? We're coming down on one of these sides. Because the question that we asked last week was, are calories the key? We decided that if you count calories alone without considering its impact on the body in terms of your hormones, then that does not give you the blood sugars that you want, and it does not give you the weight that you want. And then today we're talking about calories and how many calories do we burn with a particular activity. And now we're looking at the food and how much calories are in the food. Okay, so right there, let's not just pick on the Golden Arches. Let's hop over and let's take a look at let's look at Burger King. Let's look at Burger King. Let's see what they have to offer us. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, and so this is their breakfast menu. Let's go. Let's look at chicken and fish. That. Right. So chicken and fish, and you'll see. So their Royal Crispy Chicken, 600 calories. Fiery Royal Crispy Chicken, 760 calories. Bacon Swiss Royal Crispy Chicken, 740 calories. Okay, so many of these are in keeping with what we just saw, that you would have to run for an hour in order to burn off because we ran for if we ran and we burned 744 calories. Here's 740, 760. If you walked, you would have to walk for 2 hours, so 7 miles, in order to burn one of these sandwiches. Okay, and let's take a look at chicken nuggets. 6 chicken nuggets, 190 calories, and so not quite as much activity that you would have to do. Now, so if we look at a meal, like most people would get, for example, if you go this here, you'd get this fiery, and let me pop over and let's do this. Let's see, maybe this one. Okay, here we go. So down below, right, you'll see that, and so you would do a sandwich, and you would probably do some fries. So let's back up and let's take a look at fries, sides. So 760, let's just say we're going to do that one. 760 plus sides. And if we go here, let's see, let's do a small fry. So value French fries. Although most people get it small, not a value. Most people get it small. So 760 plus 300, that's what? 1,060. And let's assume we don't get anything to drink. We're going to drink water. So 1,060. And so now if I hop back over and take a look at the calories and how I burn those, so I could run for an hour. That gives me 744. And then I could walk for another hour. That gives me right at 1,000, right? A little over 1,000. And let's assume, let's round for simplicity's sake. So I would have to run for an hour, then walk for an hour. And that would burn off the calories that I took in from that meal that I just created. Now, here is the other component of that, though. So those are the calories. What happens to blood sugar? What happens to blood sugar? So if I go back and another thing, they give us the carbs that are in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up and I'm going to go back to McDonald's, and they have what's called a nutrition calculator. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at their nutrition calculator. So I'm going to take this quarter pounder and I'm going to edit the nutrition, right? And so now I can go in and I can take off different things. So in terms of calories, right, and this is just talking about calories, if I take the bun off, we go from calories of 740 to 560. That's for the bun. Now, if I go down here and I get rid of the ketchup, I go from 740 to 720, which is okay. Yeah, I like that. If I get rid of the mustard and the ketchup, then I go down to 720. And then if I get rid of the bun, I go down to 540. You see that? Okay. So the bun will cause the rise in blood sugar. So now we've got the calories. Okay. So yeah, we're going to run for an hour. We're going to walk for an hour. That's going to take care of the calories. That takes care of the calories, the energy that's in there. But that bun was converted to sugar. And that sugar caused a spike in my blood sugar based on the calculations that we made. And that spike in the blood sugar caused a spike in my insulin level. And when insulin came out, insulin says, thank you for providing me with that energy. I have to store some of it, so my weight goes up. And because the blood sugar spiked, It's going to come back down because the insulin came out. My appetite is stimulated. And so I ate the food, and now down the road, I find that I am hungrier than I was before. Does that follow for everyone? I hope that makes sense, because it is getting along to answering that question. And the answer to the question, let's go ahead and let's just talk about the question. And the question was, the things that I do in exercising, and we said in the gym, but it could be any kind of exercising, do those offset? Does it offset the things that I do in the kitchen? And the answer is partially. Calorie-wise, you can make a decision that, hey, I'm going to eat 1,000 calories, and in order to burn 1,000 calories, I got to run for an hour and I walk for an hour. And you've decided to do that. Great. But the other part of that we don't often talk about is what happens to the blood sugar. What happens to the spike in the insulin? What happens to the weight that we put on? What happens to the appetite that's stimulated? And if you decide that you're going to eat a burger, and the meal that we created that was a little over 1,000 calories, how many of you out there, being honest, and you don't have to put it in the chat, how many of you, well, yes, let's put it in the chat. How many of you would go run for an hour and walk for an hour after you've eaten that meal? And that's where we run into the issues of calories. So the answer to the question really is that it depends, and it depends on you. It depends on what you decide that you're going to do. It depends on how intense you are going to exercise. And it depends on the spike in blood sugar. So calories in, calories out is not as simple as it sounds, because there are several components that go along with it. It is the willingness to spend the time that's needed to exercise the amount for the food that you ate. But it's also the additional things that happen as a result of the spike in blood sugar. Because remember, you can get calories from a steak, or you can get calories from a chocolate cake. Same number of calories, but the chocolate cake has some additional hormonal signals that can cause us some issues. Now, the steak itself can do some other things. We'll come back and talk about that another time. But I hope that makes sense to you as we're talking through that. All right. So that's our conversation there. We'll come back and make one more point here in just a minute. But let's hop over and let's say hello to some folks. I see lots of conversation going on. Let's see. Teresa said, "Oh no, Jennifer, praying for you all." Definitely, Jennifer. Glad that you guys are safe, and we'll continue to keep you in mind, keep you in our thoughts, and keep you in our prayers. She said, "Thanks. We are used to watching for bad weather. Part of life in Nebraska." Teresa says, "LOL." You say you think the doctor forget? Hello, youngsters. Hello, everyone. As Steve is saying, he said, "I bought a ketone meter after 24-hour fast. I was 1.3. I don't know if that's good or bad." So great question. I know you didn't ask a question, but I'll come back and answer that question here in just a minute, Steve. And then Jennifer is saying, Jennifer, keep an eye on the weather. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on the weather. So Steve, remember, so for everyone really, but to answer Steve's question, which he didn't ask, ketones that are less than 0.5 are considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 are considered nutritional ketosis. So we want ketones that are above 0.5 or 1.5 or higher. So even if you were in ketosis and you were at 0.5 and that's where you stayed, that is still better than being below in terms of being in ketosis, burning fat, converting that to ketones, and having the benefit of weight loss, having the benefit of good blood sugars, having the benefit of suppressing insulin, having the benefit of stimulating autophagy. All of that starts at 0.5. Now, the higher you go, the more your body's converting. Okay, so 1.3 is actually great. But if you didn't have 1.3, when I get to if I get to 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, I'm excited and I could stay there the whole time because I know I'm burning ketones anyway. And then above 1.5 is considered therapeutic. And and we're talking about type 2 diabetics here, but for my type 1 diabetics, we don't want you anywhere near those numbers, right? For my type 1s. So Steve, 1.3 is actually very good. Teresa saying, hey, Steve, Jennifer, awesome on the ketone meter. I thought about getting one, but that's all I've done so far. Is thinking about it. Yeah, so as you guys know, I recommend using ketone meters. We recommend monitoring. And that's one of the other points we'll make here in just a minute, that it makes sense if we are in this process of being healthy, of improving our diabetes, improving our metabolic health, monitoring is a great way to do that. Teresa said, that's good, Steve. I think that is nutritional ketosis. That's correct. So look at Teresa's answering. Look at that, man. So two things. Number one, for Steve, yay, for getting a ketone monitor and for being in ketosis. And for Jennifer and for Teresa answering that question. Good for you. And Jennifer said, I keep jogging back to Storm Chasers. I'll check back in a bit. Awesome, Jennifer. Just stay safe. And Steve says, okay. Teresa says, okay, I will look there too. I have to make a mental note. Okay, awesome. All right. So the question of calories, right? And so this was the second show that we're doing on calories. Last week we started with the initial thought. This week we're getting a little deeper into calories. Calories are important. Calories are the way that we kind of measure and talk about food. But are calories the things that we need to be concentrated on? That's the question that we have. Or are calories alone the thing we should be concentrated on? Okay, that's probably even a better question, and we will answer those questions as we get further into the discussion over the next several shows that we do, because it is an important conversation to have. It allows us the ability to talk to each other in terms of different foods and how they work. But as you recall from last week, it is not just the food, not just the calorie, it is the composition of the food and how the food signals our body, particularly how it signals our hormones, because those hormones have different ways of functioning and different ways of working. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead, Steve. We heard your ketones. Let's take a look at what mine are going to be, and what do you think they are? Let me go ahead and pull up my Keto Mojo meter. My Keto Mojo app, actually. My meter here, I've got to turn that on. And you'll see from yesterday, my ketones were at 0.3. I actually did a recording of a show that's not aired yet. We'll play that later on this week, because I did a recording at 24 hours, actually 25 hours of fasting. It was late in the morning. All right, so we pull that through, and let's take a look at what this device is saying, that my ketones are 0.9. There we go. All right, so ketones are 0.9, and this is after fasting 44 hours is where I am right now at 1 o'clock in the morning. It'll be 44 hours. So 82 for blood sugar, 0.9 for my ketones, and you'll see there my ketone, the turquoise line, those are ketones, and then the tan line, those are blood sugars. So as my blood sugar has gone down over the course of fasting, my ketones have gone up, which is exactly what we want. Just like Steve was saying that his ketones were 1.3, so you are in nutritional ketosis. What I do want to do is let's hop over and take a look at my graphs, and let's see where we are. All right, and that'll put us, here we go. Let's see, here we are. Okay, so you'll see there my average blood sugar 117 over the last 2 weeks. 90 days gives us probably about 110 or thereabouts, 105, with glucose management indicator of 5.8. And then looking at the daily graphs, I'll come up here in just a minute. We'll see what my blood sugars have been doing over the course of the last several days. You recall that on Thursday, we did a broken fast right here about 1 o'clock. That was the anniversary cake. We continued into the 60s and 70s. And then Saturday, Friday was actually the anniversary. We did some cake before that. And so Friday was a eating day, right? So we had fasted for about 90 hours, 90 plus hours. And notice that the blood sugars continued to go up as I was eating. I think we got up to 172 on Friday. And then the next day, right, that next morning, some more anniversary cake, by the way, and some other things. And so we got up as high as 240. And then came back down, had another spike right there, about 193. This is all Saturday. And then continued eating in Saturday in 150s, 140s. I think it got, yeah, there you go, 160s. And then coming into the next morning, still residuals from the day before, 204. So notice that in that space of the 2 days, right? So eating, get a spike, blood sugars coming back down, eating, get a spike. And so the spike is going up, the blood sugars are going up, but the blood sugars are coming back down. Remember, as I mentioned before, that your body has great ability now that we are improving, now we're getting healthy, to compensate for a lot of things that we do eat. What we don't want to do, though, is continually tax the body. Because if we continually tax it, then we're walking us back into those unhealthy places. And then, so Sunday night, well, we actually started fasting right here, actually Sunday, right here, where we had that spike. So we ate probably about 1 o'clock. We were up, yes. And so that's the spike that you see there. And then blood sugars continue going down. And then this morning was 24 hours. And then into tonight, right now we're about 44, 45 hours maybe. And then into the morning we'll be at 48 hours. And so that gives us our fasting window. And you'll see as we do check-ins coming up later this week what those numbers are. Awesome. All right, so once again, if you're fasting, go ahead and drop those in the comments because we'd love to know where you are and love to know where you find yourselves right now. Okay. All right, so one of the apps that I talked about was the Yuka app, and you know that we've used Yuka here on the channel before, and this is to give us information about foods, right? The carbs, the calories, the sugar that are in them. But another app that I want to bring, and many of you probably have seen this before, and it is the There we go. And you can actually get this on your phone, or you can also use it on the website, and it's called Calorie King. And for Calorie King, basically what you do is you would go in and you could, for example, we did. Actually, let me search. I'm gonna do. What did we do? Burger King. Yeah, Burger King. Oops. If I search Burger King, what it'll do, it'll bring up the Burger King menus, and then I can go in, and there was that flame broiled Whopper sandwich that we saw, 740 calories, and it will give you a breakdown of that food item, how many calories there are, how much fat there is, the cholesterol there is, and then of course the carbohydrates. So in this case, notice that there were 50 grams of carbs in that burger. Dietary fats were 2. So if we do our calculation, 50 minus 2, that's 48. And then if we go ahead and grab our calculator, right? So 48, and if we assume, let's assume that it's going to be on the low end of, remember, 3 to 5, multiply that by 3, and that gives us a blood sugar of 144. So if your blood sugar started out at 100 and you ate that Whopper, then potentially your blood sugar can go up to 144. But that was the lower end. So if we multiply this now by 5, then that blood sugar is 240. And that's just for the Whopper. Okay? So, so that is one of the apps. So that's one of the apps that you can use. And like I said, it also comes in a online version, but most of us have our phones around, so you can use that there as well. And you can, okay, so that's, you don't want to be in test mode. Let's see. Let's go ahead and pull that back up, Calorie King. Okay, here we go. All right, so we will come back and do a review on this on our channel where we have a playlist out there, but we'll come back and we'll talk more about that. So to answer the question once again, can exercise make up for poor diet? And the answer generally is probably not. And it has to do with lots of different components. As you saw, it's not just a calorie in, calorie out calculation. It is the effect of the food. It is the spike in the blood sugar. It's the stimulation of the appetite, which causes the weight gain, which causes the appetite and causes us to eat more things, and on and on and on. So it's not, or even time, right? That's another issue. So do you, if you ate a hamburger, do you have the time, and are you committed now to exercising for whatever the hamburger was? And if you have hamburger and fries, right, that's 1,000 calories. So that's walking for an hour and jogging for an hour. So 2 hours of some pretty intense workout. And then that's just for one meal. Let's assume that later on you decide you're going to go to a place like Outback, and I had that pulled up. We're not going to go over there now. And you decide you're going to have a steak over there, right? So what does that do for the amount of food that you, or amount of activity that you have to now put in to burn those calories? Okay. All right. So I'm glad that you are here on the channel. As I always say, we educate, we empower, and we encourage. We educate, we empower, we encourage you to take charge of your health and your life. We educate with the shows that we do, right? The podcast, the blog, the show that we do here. We empower with the tools that we learn, the HEAT model, how to know where we are in terms of our emotional intelligence, how to create a menu, a 7-day menu. We did all of those. Those are all things that we do in terms of the tools that we provide here on the show, here on the channel. And we encourage with the community that you are building, the community that you are part of, the community that is here, that is being built and constructed by you. and constructed with you and constructed as a result of the communication and the interaction that we have here. As we think about the heat model, remember the heat model is a model that gives us those things that will push us to come off of our plan, our eating plan, our diet plan, our decision to make healthy choices. These are the triggers. These are the habits that we form, the emotions that are in us, the emotions that we feel, the access that we have to certain foods, and the taste of certain foods. And going through all of those, we have to be careful because these are the things that will push us through the decisions that we've made. Our call to action is when you show up, join the challenges. Don't just let the challenges move by. Don't just let them be something that you listen to and you hear that's on the shelf. Go ahead and get involved because the challenges are very important as you learn to implement the things that we're doing here on the channel. Okay, in the month of January, the challenge was to figure out what your why was. Why do you want to do the things that you're doing? Why do you want to be healthy? Why are you interested in reversing your diabetes? In February, begin fasting, an amazing tool that we're using in terms of reversing diabetes. Begin fasting for a 24-hour period once a week. That's the challenge for everyone. That was in February. In March, which of the heat model is yours? Which is the trigger? Which are the things that are pushing you in a direction? Mine is EAT. And it turns out that it's probably emotions and access are the two primary ones, and then T just comes along with it, right? So the access that we have and the emotions that push us. In April, right, create a meal that met these criteria. Whole foods, not a lot of processing, minimal sugar, no added sugar, starchy vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, tasty, appropriate portion size, lean meat or lean protein, and healthy fats. And then in the month of May, to find someone to mentor in the New Year, New You process, the New Year, New You process. Find someone, bring them alongside you, help them know that they can be better, they can have better health, they can have better wellness, they can reverse their diabetes. And then in the month of June, make sure that you are getting your labs checked. Make sure you're getting your labs checked. Okay? And for this month, for the month of July, as we're talking about calories, as we're moving in the space of how do calories impact with us, I want you to be thinking about what do we do in terms of exercising, and what do we do in terms of our calories? Let me say that again. So up until now, we have not talked about exercising as a part of the New Year, New You. Because I want you to know that we can have better numbers without exercising. We can reverse diabetes without exercising. But remember, the calories that we are talking about are a big component of that. So how do we then work with calories? How do we move through calories? How do we add those to what we're doing in terms of reversing our diabetes? So my challenge to you is this month, begin thinking about how do we implement an exercise program. And when I say exercise, I'm talking about just general, simple exercise. We're not talking about going and joining a gym or pulling up, spending a lot of money on whatever it is, right? So we're not going to, I was going to call some, probably I shouldn't do that, right? I was going to call some names of some different places. But most of the things that happen in terms of exercising at the beginning of the year, most of those things fall away before the year gets really started. Okay? So for this month, How are we going to, what are we going to incorporate in terms of activity, in terms of exercise that will help us in our decision and in our desire to be healthy and to reverse our diabetes? Notice this lady, she's chasing the donuts. Okay? So what are the things that we're going to be doing in this month to help us in that direction? All right? Awesome. Well, we'll be doing check-ins as we go through the rest of this week. We'll be back and we'll talk more about those. Remember, you have unlimited ability, you have unlimited power, you have unlimited potential at your fingertips with education, empowerment, and encouragement right here on the channel. Right here on the channel. Remember, join the challenges. When you show up, tell your story, claim your seat. When we see you, we know we can do it. When we see your challenges and the places you're having difficulty, we come alongside, we can support you. And we know that we're not alone. And then invite someone to the show. Invite someone to this space. Invite someone in this community, because this community is growing. And this is the place where we are going to be working to put our tap into the unlimited potential that comes from education, empowerment, and encouragement. That's where I want you to be. Remember, that's how we do it. Right? The triple E formula for success. We educate, we empower, and we encourage. As we move into the rest of this year, that's the space that we're moving into. So this month, how do we incorporate exercise into our program? You're doing the challenges as you're coming through. You are, because that's part of the empowerment. You are coming to the shows. You're reading the blogs. That's part of the education. And then you are helping to build the community. Okay? In the month of August, we'll be celebrating 4 years. 4 years, y'all, here on the channel. 4 years. Can you believe it? And so we're going to have some special things going on. We're going to have our community meetup later this month, and we'll tell you the date for that. We will use the same link, by the way, for those of you who were here last time. We'll use the same link, but we'll get more information to you about that. And then if you didn't catch us this Sunday morning, this week in review, 6 o'clock, Sunday morning, 6. It's a new feature that we have here on the channel, and it is an amazing feature. We recap the shows that we've done for the week, and some commentary on some of those. You want to catch those. People have sent me messages, said that they've enjoyed being there and enjoyed watching those and hearing the information. As always, I am excited to be here. Glad that you are part of the community, because you are part of my support group. I say, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Good night. We'll see you later this week in a check-in, and then next week on Sunday morning, this week in review, and on Monday at our show. Good night, everybody.